Hi, this is Diane Chapman, and in this video I'm going to show you how I make these key fobs. A lot of people ask me how to do it, and there are a lot of videos on YouTube, so you may want to check and see what other people have to say on how to make them, because they may give you a tip or a trick that I forget to tell you about. So the first thing that I do is I take out some vinyl and cut it to the size. I get most of my vinyl at Hobby Lobby. Joann's has some, but theirs is usually twice as expensive. And Hobby Lobby has a pretty good selection. Sometimes I can even get lucky and grab some at Walmart. And if I can't find what I need, there are also tons of places online where you can get fancier stuff. So this is the black, and I lay out my ruler to the measurement for my hoop. I've got a mark here for 9 inches, and I've got marks down here, so when I cut it this way I know. So I cut a long strip, and then I cut a strip this way, and I always need 2 pieces. One is going to be on the front of the hoop that will have the actual embroidery stitching, and the other one you put on the back just before the final stitch out, and that will cover up all the thread and make it pretty. So here's my 2 pieces I'm going to use for this quick demo. I take my hoop, which is a 260 by 200 for a Viking Epic machine, or my other machine, the Topaz, and I lay out a strip of stabilizer. The stuff I've been using is cutaway, very thin paper stabilizer, and it works really well because it's nice and thin, so it doesn't add too much between the vinyl to make it too thick for when I'm putting the snaps through. This is actually the stuff I get, and I've been buying one of these almost every week. One of these days I need to buy a bunch of it, but I found it online through Amazon, and it's about $14 or something like that. Unfortunately, it's not quite wide enough to fit in the groove on the sides of my hoop. So what I do is I just take a piece of masking tape and I pull it tight and tape it along the side, and that works really well. Then I take my piece of vinyl and I slide it along the inner side of both sides of the hoop, and I tape it top and bottom just to hold it, because I'm going to have my machine based around this so that I can it'll stay stable while it does the design. Now if your machine only has the feature to based around the design and not around the hoop, see my previous video on YouTube, because I show you a trick on how you can put little markers in your design, on all the corners and fake out your machine to make a wider base around a design. This is what I do a lot. I do full sheets. A lot of people just do 1 or 2 in a small hoop, but I make a whole bunch of them because I get a lot of orders for 50 of these. So this is 10 of them on a long hoop, and I can do a bunch of these in a couple days. And I also have a video that shows you, if you have embroidery software, on how to lay these out like this, if you need to know how to do that. So the next one here is I pick out on my screen of my embroidery the file that I'm going to do, and the one I'm doing today with this demo says back the blue. Now you can't see it because the thread choice for this particular design is white, so it actually says back the blue there. I'm going to do it in a different color. Obviously, even though this outline is in pink thread, I'm going to do it in black. You never have to do exactly what the embroidery design says to do. So here I'm setting my machine to based around the hoop. My Viking Epic has both options. If yours only has the design, check that other video for my trick. So here it is basting around, and this fastens the vinyl to the stabilizer, and that way it'll stay and not skid around, and you don't have to use spray-on glue or sticky stabilizer that might gum up your machine more and also have an issue when you try to put snaps. Now you can get key fob designs all over the internet. I go to Etsy and search for embroidery design key fobs. But at the bottom of this video in the comments below, I'll list several of my favorite places where I get most of mine from. When you get a design, it depends on the designer, but this first yellow is just an outline. And you can do it just on the stabilizer if you're only going to do one, so you know where the design is supposed to go. If you're going to do a sheet like this and you don't know where to place the vinyl, you can tell your machine to baste around the design, and then it'll do a close stitch around all the designs, so you'll know where to place your vinyl so that you get all the design on the vinyl. Now I've done hundreds of these, so I skip this first color. If you do decide to do this on the vinyl as your first outline so you can hold down the vinyl, make sure you do not skid the vinyl at all during the stitching, because you're going to do another stitch around it at the end. And if this first one moved, you're going to have lines, one line here and one line there. I've actually had a few I had to pitch out because that happened to me when one of my machines stretched it out a little bit. And sometimes it does stretch when you're doing these tight areas like this blue line. So since I've done these a lot and I know the placement, I'm going to skip the yellow and go right to the blue. So I have my basting stitch around to hold it stable, and I start the blue stitching. And because I tell my embroidery software to combine the colors before it exports it out to my machine, it will do all the blue on each one of them first, and then I only have to switch it one time, and then it'll do the next color and then the next on every single one of them. So this is once it's been finished. Now, when I did this demo and started taking pictures of this, I realized I had grabbed one of my old files, and that's why there's a lot of these jump threads over here that I'm going to have to cut away on these particular ones. I've actually fixed this design so that these threads are not there anymore, and I don't have to do all that extra clipping of the jump threads. My machine does cut jump threads, but there weren't trim commands in this particular design. And the reason a lot of designers don't put in all the trim markers are because there are people out there who buy their designs whose machine does not have a cutting feature. Both of mine do. So when I buy a design, I run it through my modification software, and I tell it to trim these all out automatically, and if it misses any, I go in and add a trim on the software so it cuts this out, and it will make a cut here so there isn't this drag. So once the design is finished on the front, just before that last outline design, you need to put a piece of vinyl on the back. So I put it on the back and I tape it. I only taped it here for this picture on the top, but I will tape it securely all the way around so it doesn't get stuck on my machine. And I'll also make sure all the corners are pushed down tight on the tape so they don't get stuck as it's moving around my machine and start pulling off and messing up the design. So this is the last stitch, and it's in pink. It's actually going to be stitched out in black. And I actually go through all my key fob designs and set every last stitch to pink just as a visual reminder to me, so that when I'm in a hurry and the color comes up, if I'm not paying attention and running around doing 6 things at once, I see the pink and it jogs my memory that, okay, don't forget to put a piece of vinyl on the back before you run this last stitch. And yes, there have been a few times where I've run the stitch and forgot to put the vinyl and had to do it again. So this is the last stitch. It stitches around the whole design, and because there's a piece on the back, it's finished now, because the backing hides all the thread stitching from the design itself. Here's a sheet of one that I've already done. I take my rotary cutter and I cut off the garbage around the sides, and you'll see there's still a few jumps here, and over here is one that I never clipped off, and this was just a piece of thread that got stuck and didn't cut right. So I'm going to have to pull out the scissors and do a little trimming. And on the back, because I do multiple ones on a sheet, yes, there's a mess. Those actually aren't the knots. Those are actually threads that just get jumbled up. So I have some trimming to do. If you only do one, you probably won't have a mess like this. But because I do so many at a time, and I've gotten pretty quick at cleaning them up. So the first thing you do is you cut out your key fob from the actual design. If you only did one, you have less cutting. And then you get a good pair of scissors. I use these, which are, I don't know, I picked them up at some store, but this particular pair works perfect. It's not too big. I can get nice and close. It's very sharp, and I only use it on my vinyl, so it cuts really nice. I just hold the key fob and go around and leave a little bit. And when you're cutting, you don't want to completely clip, because you'll leave little knots on it. You want to open the scissors wide, cut and turn the key fob as you're going around it to get a nice clean edge. So here's my key fob. This one's been cut out. Now on the back, as I said, there's a mess. So I love this clothes shaver. I will trim off some of these bigger threads with my embroidery scissors, which I absolutely love. These are wonderful. They're pointed and they have a retractable end so that you're not opening and closing them. You're just closing them and they pop open. And my little pair of tweezers that I use to grab the threads so I can clip them. So that's pretty good. I got most of it clipped away, but now I use my clothes shaver, and as you can see, it got it much cleaner. But just to make sure those threads are sealed up, I take a lighter and I just do it really quick and just run a quick flame across these little bits here, and that will melt and seal the threads. Then I use cam snaps. I'll put the link down there, but it's just kamsnaps.com. Those are the paw snaps, and they have a gazillion different snaps you can get and all kinds of fasteners. And the reason I buy directly from Cam Snaps is because they rescue dogs, and their profits from their sales go to help rescue and rehab more dogs. And I love dogs, so rather than buying Cam Snaps through Amazon, which you can get, I go directly to Cam Snaps so that they get the benefit. When you first buy a set, which I admit I did buy the first set on Amazon, a small kit, because I didn't know about these. And it comes with the press, a tiny screwdriver, and this punch. Because the snaps are plastic, you can't push them through the vinyl. So you need to use this very sharp, pointy thing. Watch your fingers in the back. Yes, I've jabbed myself a few times. And you run a punch through the two spots where you're going to put your snaps. Then I dig into my snaps. I use a lot of the white and black paws, but I also have tons of other heart paws in different colors. So I push one through the front, and then because this vinyl is kind of thick, I used a little screwdriver that comes with the cam snap kit, and I push the vinyl down around this. That helps make sure that as much of the stem comes out as possible, so when I smash it down with the press, it won't pop off. I still have a few that pop off, but once I learned to mash this down around it with the screwdriver, I have a lot less that break. They do sell long ones, long snap stems, but they don't have them in the paws. And I use the paw snaps or caps a lot. So this is how I've solved that problem. Oops. And then you put a female end, or this is rather the male end, on there, and you put it in this little cam snap press. This is a hand one. They do have bigger ones that sit on the table if you do a lot of these, but I have no problem with the hand snap one, and it helps boost the old muscles in the arm. But some people have problems with pressing it in their hands, so they get the table one where they could just push down easier. So you push down and you jam the stem in there, gets smashed down into the hole, and that seals the snap. And then you put a female on the other end and smash that one down. And then the female goes over the male, and it's a snap. And there you have it. So I have a paw on the front, and this is just a white one because that goes on the back, so I don't care. And when I buy the paws, it comes with a bunch of the white ones, so I just shove those on the back. And then I used to just put on the key ring, but I found these little tabs, and they're really cheap, and this way I put them together so that the recipient has an option. They can use it as a key ring, they can take this off, or they can use it as a key tab, or they can hook it to something with their keys. It just makes it a nicer option to give them both options here. And it's only a few cents more, so that's what I like. And I buy these on Amazon. If you look for key rings, or I think these are called swivel snap tabs or something like that. Email me or let me know if you need to find these online, the ones I buy. But I get like 100 of these for $9 or something like that. And then there you have it. Fold over the top, snap it, put that in, and there's your key fob. And then do it another 50 or 100 times, which is what I've been doing lately. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you need more help. I'll be happy to answer your questions, and I'll put my email down there too.